as they grew older, or things for puppies, and just everyday stuff which had not really been addressed at that time. And then when I had a collection and I was really excited, I
Ma'am, I believe you are not audible. I think you have been muted.
can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Completely.
okay. Sorry, where did you lose me? I can go back to some part of that.
Ma'am, it was just a little bit like around two or
Okay,
three
all
seconds.
right. All
We
right,
have heard
okay,
more.
great. All right, okay. So once I built out this collection, I started taking it from one pet store to the other, trying to ask them to stock it so that I could sell this product. And I was politely, and sometimes not so politely, just shown the door by every one of those retailers, saying that this would never work. And who was I to walk into their stores and please leave and all of that stuff. So it was a very very difficult time of a lot of rejection. I still have the list, and it has more than 200 pet stores across the country that I reached out to, and every single one of them said no, um, except one, which was in Bangalore, and that happened a little bit later, and I'll tell you about that as well. But I think that after kind of dealing with that rejection, I decided that I had built out all this stock, and I had to sell it. So I started taking part in some Diwali exhibitions and Christmas melas. And to my surprise, the customer there told me a very different story. They were excited, they were curious, they were enthusiastic, they were asking questions. uh, this was my second big lesson in entrepreneurship, that stay close to your customers. Because by being close to my customers, putting myself in their shoes, empathizing with them, all of this sparked a lot of creativity and innovation. They'd share stories about their pets, about their pain points, about their problem areas, and that helped us come up with products faster than anyone else. And actually, without knowing, we were practicing the human-centered design approach, or the design thinking approach, which I just heard is going to be part of your curriculum here, which is absolutely fantastic. Um, Also, because of that rejection and not having any place to permanently sell my products, we had to think about building out a front end network of stores. We also went online, and I remember my first website was designed by a class 10 student for 5,000 rupees. And I remember the joy of even receiving 3 or 4 or 5 orders a month from across the country, from strangers. I wondered how they had found me, because the e-com infrastructure then in 2008 was so tiny, and it was just the start of it all. Um, I also remember that there was a new mall in Delhi, and I went there, and they had these little kiosks in the middle of the mall, and I begged them for a 2-day cart rental, because even that was so expensive. And they took a chance on me and actually gave it to me, and I'm so grateful for the kindness of strangers sometimes, when they take a chance on us. So that was wonderful, because that helped to really showcase our product range and build awareness. I used to stand there for hours just talking to customers. There was no awareness and there was no customer really, because they hadn't seen a lot of this product before. So it was really building it up from ground zero. Just after a year, though, of starting Heads Up for Tails, my husband got transferred over with his job overseas. And we were there for the next 7 years. And for 7 years, I had to run this remotely, during which I also had a child, commuted back and forth from India, tried to use the power of social media, digital. But despite my ambition and vision being really large, I had to really temper it down and recalibrate it at that time. But I think the important thing here was that I didn't give up. There were lots of people who said, including family, that how are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Just be where you are, and be in that moment and enjoy your life. But I just had this crazy fire in me, and I just couldn't. It just would not reduce, or it was just burning really nice and bright. And those years of growing, trying to grow this in a very, very niche market, sitting far away with no money and almost no team. I just had one or two very basic team members who helped me sort of pack an order or be there at the store. Uh, I also didn't have any expertise in what I was building, and both e-commerce and retail have so many verticals to them. There was customer service and logistics and supply chain and product development and innovation and a whole range. I mean, the online versus offline, and it was all completely different. And it was just such a massive, massive, steep learning curve, while simultaneously building awareness and building the customer. And it was really tough. I couldn't find anyone with expertise because no one had done this before. I couldn't find vendors. So just like the retailers had shown us the door, lots of vendors, when I told them this was for dogs and cats, they just, I don't know why, but they got offended and asked me to leave multiple times. And also there was no one to learn from. So we had to just build our own path, not even one day at a time, but one step at a time, slowly. And here, I think the lesson for you is
काय
that
नाही
today,
हा पनीरची भाजी काय मी आणू काय यांना आणते तो मला काम आहे
Okay.
I'm
Please
sorry,
request you keep your microphones. Yeah. Okay.
yes. Today entrepreneurship is a very celebrated word, and there's so much support and infrastructure being built around that. But yet, I do want to tell you the hard truth that it is a lonely, difficult, messy journey. And as entrepreneurs, we need to build a huge amount of resilience to be able to really deal with everything that comes our way. And this is what my journey threw on me, and there'll be heaps at every turn for every entrepreneur in the making. And then I think finally, when I just couldn't cope with that fire anymore, I moved back. I said, okay, now I just have to do this. It was already 2015 by then. And I knew it was time to soar higher and find the right investors and really take this to the next level. At this point, we turned to high net worth individuals and family offices, people whom we had met on our journey and who had aligned on our vision, versus going the VC route at this very initial angel phase. I do want to share with you that I've seen funding go right. I've seen funding go wrong more times than I can actually count. People and investors and founders making incorrect decisions on whom they're partnering with, why they're doing it, when they're doing it. So I just wanted to leave a little note that funding is a very exciting time of the journey, but it's not really the end goal. Um, Whenever you do decide to do that, you have to think about who are you partnering and bringing on as a partner. Why do you need to raise funds? A lot of times people don't have the answer for it. And is it really the right time? We had a lot of people reach out to us even during those 7 years, but I knew that it wasn't the right time, and I had to say no, even though it was so tempting to say yes. I knew it would make some things easier, not everything. But this is another quick lesson that entrepreneurship is a long journey. So choose the right partners and take your time to know them well before you bring them on board. Since 2016, since I moved back, we've been working really hard to build out a strong product portfolio, understanding our customers deeply, and also educating them and building them up, building our stores, of course, but also customer experience, the supply chain, our teams, learning ourselves, trying to learn ourselves so much, not just about business, but also about the amazing species that we have the privilege to serve. And I think that was on the professional side, and also personally, trying to raise my daughter, manage a home, be there for my friends and family, and then nurture this company that wants to strive for world class has made me feel so stretched every day that I sometimes feel that or multiple times I feel like I would break. And the reason I bring this up here is that if you speak to any entrepreneur, they'll tell you this. They'll tell you that having that startup is really a full-time, 100% commitment, and then you have the rest of your life to run, and it is so demanding, and yet I wonder that what is it that prompts us to get onto that train. I hear about passion is a word that's very often used to describe entrepreneurs, but since I started this journey, I feel like, is that passion enough to keep you going, or do we need something more deep rooted? Is it going to tell you when you're not doing something right, and you're doing something wrong? And I believe that it's a mix of actually passion and perseverance, something that you call grit, that you actually need on this journey. Like I said, I have stumbled more times than I can count, and honestly, many times I feel like it'll be easier to give up than and let it go. There's no external force that's holding me to the standard. There's no one blaming me if I got off on the next train stop and made my way somewhere else. But the thing is that when I made even that first bed for Sarah and then made so many more products for other families, I saw what it gave them. I saw that the little joy that it brought when people got connected better to their pets, or pets led a better, healthier, more comfortable life. And in that, I think I found my purpose. um, Purpose is what makes me come back to the drawing board and regroup time and again. And I think that finding your purpose will tell you where that train is headed, and that makes all the difference. So, in addition to the work that we do at Huff, we also set up the Huff Foundation, which works towards peaceful coexistence of man and animal in urban spaces. And really, it keeps me going. And here's another little lesson, that to succeed at something at the long run, you need to have a combination of grit, which is your passion, and perseverance, and also purpose, a strong, strong sense of purpose. From the outside, it may seem like a business is all about buying and selling and products and profits and losses. And it may seem like what you need to shoot for is success in a traditional sense. What are your numbers? What is your funding? How much are you growing? How many customers do you have? But actually, entrepreneurship is so much more rewarding, and it's so much more than that. It makes you grow so much as a person, and it makes you realize that you can make a real impact on the world around you and help people grow with you. And today, if I were to leave you with any one piece of advice, it would be that take the time to really find your purpose and what do you want to do in this world, and leave that tiny little mark to leave the world better than what you found it as. In my journey, the most precious thing has been meeting my customers, meeting these little puppies and kittens when they were tiny, and being with them through that whole journey, and even sometimes, seeing them pass over, but yet staying connected to those families. And I think thanks to Sarah, I know that this relationship, it changes lives forever. I know for a fact, and I've seen it play out so many times, that when we share our lives with animals, it can change the world, because they help us see the best versions of ourselves. They help us become kinder, more compassionate, more empathetic. And I really hope that through this vision, I'm able to inspire change in my company, in our customers, and beyond. And just knowing that the work that I do today and every day plays a role in our pets' daily lives is both humbling and it's incredible, and it really drives me to do better. I know that if all of us were to connect in a couple of years and you'll all have your versions of your entrepreneurial journeys, they'll all be so different. And I think that's the most amazing thing about entrepreneurship, that there's no one way to it. I just want to end by saying, follow your heart and believe that you are way more capable than what meets the eye. And just there's this quote by Rumi that I love, which says, "Don't be satisfied with stories how things have gone with others. Unfold your own myth." Thank you so much for listening to me today, and I hope that you're able to take away some of these small lessons. And I wish you luck with the new center. I think it's an incredible opportunity, and I hope that you'll all really tap into the resources and the events that are being organized. And I wish you much luck. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I was just been sitting here and listening to you, and I can't just help and think that, what an incredible journey it has been like, for the, when you started back in 2008 to now. So, ma'am, my name is Malhar, and since the day we announced that you were coming, I have been getting flocks of texts from students, telling me, Malhar, ask her this, Malhar, ask her that. So I'm going to ask some of those questions.
Sure. Please go ahead.
Yeah, to get some insights from you. So ma'am, I just want to start by asking you about this one article that you had written, and I came across your LinkedIn profile and I had read that. And it was titled The 7 Entrepreneurial Lessons That I Learned from My Dog. And you kind of went on to say that, that an entrepreneur needs to be conscious about their environment and learn from everybody around them, right? Teachers, in our case, it would be our peers. So, ma'am, I want to hear from your perspective that in that sense, how much has it helped you in your own life as a startup founder, learning from every person that comes along in your way, and even with your dog?
Malhar, I don't think I could have done it any other way. I think as entrepreneurs, we have to be open to learning all the time. And honestly, I think not just as entrepreneurs, but as human beings. I think till the day that we are alive, we have to be learning, being curious, asking questions. That's really the only way to grow and truly be alive. Sarah taught me so many special lessons, as have so many of my other dogs. But also, I think there's something to learn from every single person that you meet. It doesn't matter what level they're at, where they're from, what age they're at. There's something so special to learn from a little child, from someone senior who's lived a long, wise life and has grown older and wiser in that process. So I think learning is an integral part, and I think if you can also make it a more structured um, into a more structured routine where you're not just learning subconsciously, but you're learning consciously, where you're making time for learning every day. And it could be in the form of a podcast every morning, it could be a TED talk every morning, it could be a book that you read, but making sure that you give at least 15 to 30 minutes of just learning time every day. And honestly, I think it just changes everything. And you can't see it then, but when you look back, the way that you're connecting the dots looks completely different.
Very true. Very true. Yes, ma'am. So one of the areas that I wanted to ask you about in your journey, and I think this is something that you also spoke about briefly during the talk, was raising funding for the startup, right? And all of us students, sitting outside the ecosystem, we are all fascinated to hear when we hear that, Series A funding round में इतना मिला, and then people are having such incredible valuations. So you have been in that process, and you have had the experience of raising money from venture capital firms like Sequoia. So how is that experience like? And from your perspective, if you're thinking about an investor, what do they really look at? Do they look at the story? Do they look at the founder, or they just look at the numbers and take a decision? So what is that, that makes them take and, effectively enables a founder to raise money?
The first thing that they look at is the industry. They are looking at the market size, they're looking at the space that you're in. Is it deep enough? Is it big enough? And we've been in talks with some of these funds for years, but we just didn't feel like the market was big enough or deep enough, or we were large enough to go down the VC route. And so we waited, and so did they. So that's definitely the first thing they look at. I think secondly, they definitely look at your story, you as a founder, your passion, what's the difference that you want to make. And thirdly and lastly, like you said, the numbers are important. So they, you could have an amazing idea, but how well are you actually executing it? The numbers tell you that. And so all of those three things are extremely important.
Right. So, ma'am, like this process of raising your funding, how long has it been? I mean, did you start? When did you decide? Okay, this is the time when we need to expand, because I believe this is where many startup founders, get confused, because you have to expand the business, but then you also have to manage your working capital, and then there's 100 of other things that are going around you. So when is the time when you decide, okay, this is when I need to raise this funding, and it is really necessary for me to expand the company beyond?
I think the most well, honestly, I think it's different for everybody. Some people like to take it at the seed time when they're starting the company, where they don't have any capital of their own to put in. But I believe that if you do have some capital to put in and establish a strong product market fit, test the market, see what's not going well, that's a big advantage of being an entrepreneur, right? You can fail fast as compared to big organizations where if they have to launch a product, they have to do months of research, submit plans, and there's not that much agility and there's not that much speed. There's lots of bureaucracies and layers. Whereas for us, you want to launch a product or a service, we have the ability to test, fail, try again, make a better version. Right. So I believe that establishing a strong product market fit, having the confidence that you have done this right, spend time with your customers, build something that they actually love or is adding value, and you can then have the confidence to say, look, now I know that I can scale this, I know what I'm doing. I think that's really the time, and I think that it's okay to be really small till then, but
Yeah.
um, but I've seen different models, and it just depends on what's working for you truly.
Yeah, exactly, ma'am. So like you said, I mean, startups are usually more flexible and than if you look at big organizations. And I think it becomes like a sounding board where you have feedback from your very own people who are not
Yes,
really very scared to tell you ki, if something is wrong. So
absolutely.
I think that's what makes a difference between a startup. So ma'am, one more aspect of a startup, which I personally believe, can make or break a startup would be the people that you have around you. And you have spoken about that during your talk as well. And I read about it that you have recently appointed Swati Mohan, who was the former marketing head for Netflix, as your chief business officer. So what goes on in your head? What is the thought process when you decide, okay, this is the person who is right to be side by side with me, and their visions can align with mine, and they can really add value. Because I think getting the right people to be by your side is makes a lot of difference. So what is that thought process for you?
Malhar, I have made so many hiring mistakes through the way, and I think all of us will, because you have to learn yourself what works for you as a person, what works for you as a company, and it will be different things at different points in your life. Even when you're starting out as an entrepreneur, you're a leader in some sense. You have to make sure that, I mean, as a leader, your responsibility is to grow your people, right? So um, it it takes time and it takes walking on that journey to learn what works, what doesn't work. But I'll tell you that the one thing that uh, I've never compromised on is value system. What does HUF stand for? What does the company stand for? And can you align with our values or not? That is, really the guiding force. After that, skills I believe can be learned. If somebody doesn't know something, there's so much access to education online, to courses, webinars, seminars. You can learn that if you have the learning mindset. But for me, it's really about being on the journey with people who are
Yeah.
aligned on values.
Absolutely, ma'am. Thank you so much. And ma'am, now you talk about resilience during your speech, and you spoke about how important is it for an entrepreneur. And I think the greatest test of resilience for every business owner in the past 1 year has been the pandemic, right? And everybody has had to change the way they do business. And you have repeatedly said that the pandemic was kind of like an opportunity for you, and you've seen your business grow during that time. So we want to just know from you, what were some of the challenges that you might have faced as a result of that, and what were the opportunities that you received as a result of the pandemic?
Sure. So I'll start with the challenges. I think big challenges were um, retail stores closing. That was a big, big hit. Just supply chains breaking, product not being available, no one knowing how to organize any of it. Uh, I mean, the whole team. How do you keep them safe? How do we go on to doing work from home? It's something that we've never planned for. I mean, there was just complete chaos in every sense. But I think that before anything else, before we thought about the business part of it, I was so happy to see how my team was just thinking about the customers. They were like, how are people going to feed their dogs and cats? We were getting hundreds of calls saying, listen, my cat doesn't eat anything else. I need this food. And, so many people took to doing deliveries, coming to the warehouse, packing orders. I mean, it was just heartening to see that. So I think being there for your customers is just so important because they've been there for us, and that's really how it works. It's all about relationships, and then I think we realized that look, offline is going to be challenging for a while, so we shifted our attention online. And while we had the online platform for a long, long time and for many years, we weren't focusing on it as much. We were focusing more on the offline piece because we felt like it enabled more discovery for our products. And a lot of them are products that people aren't familiar with, and so they're not going to search for them. But we changed a lot of focus online and hired teams around that and really tried to scale that up. And we saw that big opportunity there. So that was very exciting. And we're still working on making a lot of things better. We also try to do a lot of content so that we could give value to people who where we talked about things like dogs who are so bored being at home, walks are affected, mental health challenges, games that you can play, lots of fun stuff like that. So it's been really exciting. And I think that as entrepreneurs you always have to see opportunity when other people don't.
Yeah, absolutely, ma'am. And I think you have expanded a little bit upon your content also during the course of the pandemic. I've seen that, through your social media platforms, you've been trying to, build a lot of content that is directed at customers and kind of helping them, kind of acclimatize to this entire situation. So, ma'am, as students, when the pandemic started, we had a lot of ideas in our heads as to what startup founders are doing now, right? And most of it is based on what we have seen in movies, or maybe you talk about series like Suits, where people walk into a boardroom and they take decisions on the go. So, from your perspective, the day when our Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced that the country would be put under a lockdown, what was the first thing that hit you? And was it that you directly went on to a call with your team, or it was a more gradual process of trying to acclimatize?
For us, it was a little bit more gradual, just because there was so much uncertainty that we didn't really know which direction anything was headed, and it was messy and it was just chaotic. So yeah, we just wanted to see how it goes, and that's what we did. That's what we did.
Yeah, great, ma'am. And I will ask you one last question from my side, and then we will open the floor to questions from our audiences. So, ma'am, I know that you are not, you are not at liberty to share specific about, the future plans of Heads Up for Tails, but I just want to ask you, what is your vision for the future of the company? Because, I was watching one of your interviews and you spoke about that we want to try different verticals, and also that we want to expand our kind of geographical presence. So with the funding that you have raised recently, do you want to improve your footprint within India, look at international markets, or you think about different verticals? So what is the vision for the company in the next 5 or 10 years?
Well, there is of course a financial vision, a product vision, an expansion vision, where we want to be able to go to many more cities, reach many more pets across the country, and of course scale the online presence as well. But in addition to that, truly and deeply, the big vision that we have as a company is for every home to experience the joy of raising pets as family, because we know that when that happens, the world changes. You become a better person. Like I said, you become kinder, more compassionate, more empathetic, and really, like, there is so much joy in that relationship, and we hope that everyone can really feel it. We definitely want to start with India first. We feel that still, we've just barely scratched the surface, both on the Huft side and the Huft Foundation side. And there's a lot of work to be done. And while we are present in other countries in small ways, I think our focus right now for the next 2-3 years is really going to be India and getting this part right before we think about moving outside.
All right. Thank you so much, ma'am, for those incredible insights. So we'll now open the floor to questions from our attendees. Before that, I would just like to give some general instructions to you. Please do not switch on your mic. You can use the raise your hands option, which is provided through Microsoft Teams. And then we will call up your name or your roll number, whatever has been displayed on the screen, okay? So I think the first question is from Gautami. Gautami, if you can please switch on your mic. And
Yeah, sure. Am I audible and visible?
yeah, Gautami.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so hi, first of all, good morning, and thank you for joining in today. So I like the way your story revolved around struggle, like a part of the whole process that people don't usually highlight, right? And we often hear that go ahead and do what your heart makes, like what makes you really happy. This is something which we usually listen from people. But while that sounds very beautiful, there are days when you question yourself. There are days when there's a lot of self-doubt. So in those initial days, and especially when you have a strong profile and background like LSE and City, right? So you move from Excel sheets and fixed timetables to starting something from scratch. So what was your coping mechanism like, and what were those little things that made you stay strong in the journey and keep going ahead with the vision that you had, or the thing that you had for your own self? So yeah.
I'm just reminded when you were speaking about my first day in a corporate job. Um, I always actually wanted to be an entrepreneur, and then I think I went to college, and then when we were graduating, everybody was applying for jobs, and there was so much excitement, and there were all these career fairs, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, where am I going to get placed?" And I also went right into that, completely forgetting my entrepreneurial dream that I've had ever since I was little. And I remember walking into this big, beautiful corporate building on my first day and being super excited. And honestly, 1 week later, I realized I was one of like 15,000 people in that building. It didn't really matter if I was there or not, making the tiniest impact. And I think I knew just then that this is not what I wanted to do. So I think that moment just, I didn't know what else I wanted to do, but I knew that that's not what I wanted to do. And I think that moment made me realize that I wanted to do something where I'm making a little bit of a difference, even if it's tiny. So I think when you have those realizations and learnings, then it pushes you harder to stay on that messy path where you can't even see 5 steps ahead. So yeah.
I think that realization part becomes very important for you to like take that decision, put yourself out of that structure and start something new. So I think thank you so much.
Most welcome.
I think, ma'am, I should just inform you, we have in our college, we have just begun with the placement session, so you can just get an idea as to what is going on right now.
Amazing.
Yeah. So next we have Nidhi. Nidhi, are you available? Can you switch on your mic and ask ma'am the question?
Malhar,
Yeah. Am I audible?
Just to add a point to your note about placements, I just want to say that entrepreneurship is not for everyone. There are many different paths to being happy and achieving your purpose. So think about the company that you want to work with. It's not just where you get an offer from, but really where do you want to go? I think that's so important as well. So yeah, just a little note.
Very true, very true. Nidhi, yeah, go forward.
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning, ma'am. My question might not be related to your product line, but I would love to know your views on this topic. So, as pet parents, whenever we are traveling out of station, it's a task to take care of our pets. And we have had cases of mishaps which pets are taken on a flight. Not only injuries, but many people have lost their pets as well because of the negligence of the crew members and everyone. So, do you have any solution as to how can we deal with this situation?
It is a little bit of a tricky situation. There is actually a big campaign on by many pet parents and people from the pet industry pushing Vistara to start a service for pets. Because Mr. Tata is a big animal lover. We know that if it's done by someone who's going to do this well, it would be somebody like him. That said, we don't know whether that will ever happen or not. So I do recommend that you do train or car travel. It may be more cumbersome, but you know that your pets are safer, especially when you're doing trips with them. So yes, that's That's just a little
Yes.
word of advice.
Thank you, ma'am.
Most welcome.
Yes, we have Kush next. Kush, if you are available.
Hello, ma'am. It is
Hi.
really an absolute pleasure talking and listening to you, first of all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ma'am, my question is that being an entrepreneur is a very different kind of journey because if you want to be a doctor, there's a specific path laid for you. But being an entrepreneur, you have to fail, you have to rise. So how did you know that you're going on a right path? And how did your academics, did you learn more in the real world or your academics help you somewhere? Means if some other books which you will recommend or something which helped you apart from the academic. Because entrepreneurship is more about practicality instead of
Yes.
academic.
Right.
So if you suggest something,
So,
I'm a
Kush,
first year graduate.
okay, great, great. So, Kush, I believe honestly that today's companies, everybody is looking for people with an entrepreneurial mindset because the business environment has become so challenging that even if you're in a very structured corporate environment, you will really thrive if you bring a self-starter, entrepreneurial mindset where you're taking initiative, thinking about problem solving, and just going that extra mile that maybe you're not required to. And even if you're a doctor and you have to eventually run your own business, there is so much that you need in terms of this spirit and skill to be able to balance even a teacher or a doctor or a lawyer. All of them also need to have these entrepreneurial skills to really thrive and go, just do better in whatever roles that they're doing. um, to your questions on learning through university and learning on the job, I think both are really important. Being in university, attending your classes, preparing well for your exams, just learning whatever material you're presented with and doing it thoroughly. It builds discipline, it builds structure, it builds routine, it expands your brain really. You're taking in so much, and it helps you make sense of the world differently versus perhaps just saying, okay, I don't think I'm ever really going to use this, and skipping a lot of that. And of
Mhm.
course, you have to learn every single day on the job, every single day, really. And there are times when you don't know the way ahead. There are many times like that where I don't know, should I go this way or that way, or should I go back, or should I, it's just, and sometimes you'll take the wrong way, but I think if you're open and your intuition is nice and alive, it'll help you find your way back. And of course, you have to, you may not realize, but even if you're doing an accounts class, your ability to understand numbers or data, or if you're doing psychology, how you can apply it to customers, or if you're doing, just English, how you can communicate so much better. All of these skills go a long way. And so it's really about um, it's just the way that it comes together is amazing. I'm not doing anything now that I had possibly learned in school or college in terms of really background, but I'm so grateful for all that I have, in terms of my education, because it just helps me, put make sense of the world in with my filter. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Ma'am, just a little more. You
Yes.
said you started in 2018 and a major change came in 2015. In those 7 years, have you ever felt ki, yaar, this is not for me? I should have doing something else. What made you go through? Yes, this is my thing. 7 years without much progress, but still you continued it. So what made you think that this is my own path? How did you realize that no, this is my thing?
Of course, I think it was. Uh, I felt like this was my purpose, and I think that's the only thing. I can't quite even explain how difficult those 7 years were, but that there's something that keeps you going when you find something that you're really passionate about, and I hope that all of you do.
Thank you very much, ma'am. It was pleasure, really an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Kush, for the questions. We have Anushka next. Anushka, would you like to go ahead and ask a question?
Yes. Can you hear me, Mala?
Yes.
Yes, Anushka. Continue.
Good morning, ma'am. Thank you so much for being here. And without any doubt, I can say that I love Heads Up for Tails more than my dog. Uh,
Thank you so much.
yes,
Thank you.
yes, ma'am. So my question was, along with the sale of board games, scented candles, and everything, another category that received a lockdown boost was pet care. So, ma'am, what do you think is the future market of pet care in India? And will the government also help in making pet care a big industry?
Anushka, we get that asked a lot, even by our investors and the community at large. The fact is that right now, despite it coming up in the news and people saying that it's got a big boom, which it has, it's still a very niche market. It's the total market size is about 6 or 7 thousand crores, which is really tiny and that includes veterinary services as well, and that's really tiny as compared to your cosmetics or your other consumer products. So I think that we still have a long way to go to build the market. It is growing, but just given the size and how tiny it is, I think it's still going to take a little while. As far as the government is concerned, we're not sure yet. We don't see a lot of focus on this segment from them as yet. But I do see focus on the startup community at large. So I'm sure that that will flow in as well. So definitely exciting times
Thank you so much, ma'am.
as well.
Thank you, Anushka. So, ma'am, we will take two more questions. Do you have time for that? Or
Yes, sure. No problem. No problem.
great, 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 ma'am. I think Akshat, you're next. I think you are raised.
Yes.
Yeah,
Uh,
great.
Hello and good morning, ma'am. Thank you for sharing your amazing journey with us. I feel many of us have product ideas which we don't know how to actually bring to life. So I would like to ask you, how did you design and manufacture a product which was never built before and was only an idea?
Akshat, I literally just built it. I built it. It was not nice. It didn't come out well. It wasn't stuffed enough. It didn't stand so well. It didn't wash so well. So we built another version and another version and another version and another version. We tried it with friends. We tried it with family. We tried it with Sarah. And we just kept building prototypes till we found what we were happy with. So I think in today's, when as part of your curriculum, like I mentioned, you have design thinking, and design thinking, it encourages you to build quick prototypes instead of actually going all out and building the product. So for example, today if you want to build an app, instead of going out there and saying, okay, I need an app developer and then I'm going to spend 6 months building this out, can you first cutting out pages of paper in the form in the shape of your phone, and literally preparing screen after screen on what that idea should be, right? And when you have gone through and prepared your 15 screens of what your app should look like, you staple them together and you give them to a friend and say, okay, here, try my app, and it's a paper app where you literally just said, okay, if you tap on yes, next screen is this, and if you tap on this, it's going to this and this and this. And just quick prototyping is what you need to do to first make an idea come to life. So don't get intimidated by actually making the product come happen in its full physical or virtual form, but just do quick prototyping, and it'll save you so much time and it'll help bring you so much clarity. And then you can, like, literally, I remember once I had done a project where we were trying to make an app like this, and we actually stood on the road and stopped people and said, hey, can you try this in its paper form, for example. But it gave us a lot of quick feedback to make it better, and then we said, okay, now we're feeling a little more confident to go to the next step. So baby steps always.
Much, ma'am, like that was so amazing. And like we have a lot of ideas, but we do find it very difficult. We think
Of
like,
course, of course. So just break it down and say, okay, how can I make the first, most basic version of this?
thank you so much.
Literally by putting Lego, paper, anything together, or virtual screens. How can I make the most basic? And then just start with that.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, I had one more question if you could.
Yes,
Yes.
sure.
Ma'am, how did you build a team of like-minded individuals?
Like I mentioned, for me, I believe that skills can be learned, but values really can't be. So I just try to align on values, and then the rest just follows. People who are open to creating impact, who are open to learning, who are driven by, who are comfortable, for example, in quick change or messy situations, so many things, of course, who have deep passion, for pets. That was the most basic. But just aligning on value system, I think it brings you to get closer to people much more quickly.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your time, and that was a brilliant journey.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Akshat. Jayesh, I think your microphone is switched on. Could you please switch it off? Please switch off your microphone. Okay. So ma'am, like you were talking about, building things every single day. I think there's a rule for that. We talk about that we need to grow ourselves 1% every day, and it kind of compounds into, building something big. So I think, you kind of encompass that feeling. So we'll take one last question, ma'am, and then we will wrap it up. So the last question, I do not have a name, but the roll number is 5176. Could you please go ahead, identify yourself, ask the question to ma'am?
Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Yes.
Yeah.
So very good afternoon, ma'am. It was such a nice pleasure to have interaction with you. So my question is, do entrepreneurship offer work-life balance, or if how do you maintain it?
Good question. For me, no, it doesn't. And honestly, for the longest time, I kept striving. Yeah, what is work? My life is just not balanced. There's too much work, no life. Too much work, no life. But then I realized that really, when you're doing something that you love, this is really my life. And there are days when work is priority, and it takes literally 8 a.m. to 12 morning, midnight, and that's what it needs. And there are days when it's lighter, and you can take the time out to maybe meet a friend for dinner or coffee. So I think it just depends on your ambition. It depends on what you want to build for yourself. If that's a priority, then you temper your scale accordingly, and really just live life how the way that it makes you happy. So it's really like it is in your hands in some ways, based on how big you want to grow. And I see a lot of people doing it beautifully, but with the vision and the ambition that I have, I haven't been able to find it quite yet. So yeah.
Ma'am, and I think I came across this one tweet, or I don't know, it was on LinkedIn, and someone said that, before I used to complain about a 9 to 5 and that I don't get time for anything else. Now I started my own company and I work the entire day and I don't get time for anything else. But
9 to 9. Yes.
something that I love, and that kind of has made all the difference to me in the world. So
Yes.
thank you so much, ma'am. We'll wrap up the question and answer session through that. And I'd now like to invite Aishwarya, ma'am, to come and speak to you. And I think she's the brainchild behind this entire program today. And she was the one who kind of liaison between you, the
Yes.
company, us. So, Aishwarya, ma'am, over to you.
Rashi, thank you. Thank you so much for accepting this invitation. I'm so grateful that you are here. And let me tell you, you have inspired more than 300 students in just a matter of few minutes. So thank you. And I can very well relate to whatever you said, especially the fact that, be close to your customers. Being from Pune, I know you've passed on those values to the people who manage your business. And I can very well vouch about Ruchika, who's been so close in, managing the customers, the shops. So I can see those values being passed down to every person in the outlet. So thank you for accepting it, and I'm really very grateful, and I look forward to having many such interactions with you, and hopefully one day on campus.
So thank you so much. And I really like to apologize to the students whose questions we couldn't take. But nonetheless, I think you can follow Raashi on LinkedIn and get a lot of insights. She posts a lot of her interviews, her articles, and videos. So I'm sure those are going to be of great learning to you all. So thank you. Thank you once again.
Aishwarya, thanks so much for having me here. It's lovely to get connected. And like you said, I hope we get to meet in person soon.
Yes. And last but not the least, the brainchild behind CIE, which is Sharayu ma'am. She's been an exceptional mentor for everyone. She's, she always has a yes on her tongue. You want this, do it. You want this, do this. So just thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Raashi. On behalf of our college, we are going to have a formal vote of thanks, but on behalf of the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship and the entire team, who's put up this program today, I would like to thank you for coming and connecting with our students. And as Aishwarya said, you've inspired more than 300 students. So just to share with you that, on our campus on Senapati Bapat Road in Symbiosis College of Arts and Commerce, Pune, which many of our students who have joined today have not even seen the campus because they have connected with us online. We have 2 pugs here, and they have been these pugs are specially kept because, we have a hostel in this campus. So for students who live in the hostel and students who come to college, they are very good friends. And I think it's basically because, as you said, it helps, individuals to be a little more compassionate, a little more sensitive, right? And they don't feel homesick because the pugs are there. So sometimes, as Aishwarya said, do come over to our college campus and also our pugs. Of course, students first and pugs, but then do come. Also, looking at what you have, shared with our students, I would just like to say, that you only live once. Somebody has said that you only live once, and why live that life, fulfilling somebody else's dream. So I think you have, perfectly, given a very good shape to your life, and you have, channelized your life in such a way that you're able to fulfill your dreams. And that's what we keep on telling students, that think in a different way, and try to, be entrepreneur. And if not an entrepreneur, as you have rightly said, develop an entrepreneurial mindset, because that is something which is going to keep you apart. So thank you so much. Your journey was very, very inspiring. Okay, I could see that there was a lot of resilience which you could, you have displayed during the entire journey. And a lot of my students here and many girls have connected, and many of them who know you. So I'm very sure that now they will not think of taking up a job, but they will surely think of starting on their own. Yeah. So thank you so much. And once again back, physically on the campus.
Definitely, ma'am. Thank you so much, and thank you for spearheading such a wonderful campaign, and the center. And I just want to share that even if you're going into jobs, it's a great time to do that after college. There's so much that you can learn, and it's never too late for entrepreneurship. It could be 10 years after you feel like you've learned a lot and you're ready. So just listen to your heart a little bit more, and when the head and heart are aligned, then I think you'll never make the wrong decision. So, but ma'am, thank you for giving me this opportunity. Really grateful, and I hope to see all of you in person soon.
Yeah, thank you so much to Aishwarya for inviting you. Thank you so much. Yes.
Thank you so much, Rayu ma'am, Aishwarya ma'am, and just one last thank you from my side to Raashi ma'am. Thank you so much for being here and answering all of our questions and giving us such incredible insights. And I hope, and we wish you the best for the future, whichever direction Heads Up for Tails is going. And we would love to have you back when Heads Up for Tails becomes a unicorn.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now we will go to the formal vote of thanks by Manish. Manish, you can proceed. Thank you so much, everybody.
Yeah, thank you, Mala. So Albert Pine said, what we do for ourselves dies with us. What we do for others and the world remains and is immortal. Keeping this thought in mind, I, Manish Agarwal, take immense pleasure in and am deeply grateful to deliver the vote of thanks for today. First and foremost, I would like to extend our warmest regards to Ms. Raashi Narang, the founder of Heads Up for Tails, and our esteemed speaker for today. It was an honor to have you as our guest, ma'am, and we are immensely grateful to you for dedicating time off of your busy schedule to provide us with your valuable insights and advice. and also for interacting with the students of SEAC. I would also like to give a special mention to Mr. Siddharth Sharma from Heads Up for Tails for coordinating this event. Next, I would like to express our deepest gratitude to our principal, Dr. Rishikesh Soman, for providing us with his unwavering support in conducting these sessions, despite the college functioning in an online mode, and to our vice principal, Dr. Tessie Tharatil, for always giving us her encouragement and support in conducting such educative sessions. I would also like to express our most hearty and sincere thanks to Dr. Shrayu Bhakre, our teacher in charge and the head of the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, for being our pillar of support and always encouraging and motivating us through countless such endeavors. Next, I would like to express our warmest appreciation to our teacher, Ms. Ashwarya Kalyan Shetty, for being the liaison between Ms. Narang and the college. We are indebted to you, ma'am, for your passion and enthusiasm in making this wonderful session possible. As an event is never successful without the contribution and support of a dedicated team, I would also like to give a huge shout out to each and everyone in the CIE team who made this session possible. And last but definitely not the least, all of us would like to applaud the attendees for being such an enthusiastic audience. It was our pleasure in hosting you all. Thank you all once again and have a great day ahead.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Raashi ma'am. And thank you,
Thank
Lara,
you.
also for excellent hosting. Thank you, Aishwarya.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you again. Thank you.